My dog.
You and 313 other people.
That's right. My dog is definitely afraid of them, and one of our neighbors shooting off fireworks, hitting our roof. The next morning, it was July 4th. Cones from the fireworks were littered all over the property where it hit our roof, hit our garage. And, you know, we're lucky we didn't burn down.
That was one of the things that we discussed a lot at the meetings, was debris falling on other people's property, especially dry as it is now. But we restricted using them as dry as it is now. But even on a year that isn't as dry as now, you get dead leaves, dead pine needles and stuff like that under a tree. They can ignite pretty easily.
Yep.
And
we have a lot of pine trees around there.
And it only takes us a month to change this ordinance. You know, if we have problems with it, or the police has problems enforcing it, or wants other restrictions.
Well, we called the police department, which they weren't open. We got shuffled to Waterville, and they were like, well, we'll make a note of it. And nothing ever happened. You know, nothing. So.
Nobody came to check it out.
No.
They must not have reported it to the officer that was on duty then, or I'm sure they would have come and taken a look at it. But there are many times we only have one officer on.
I know.
And if they're busy with something else, they probably won't go to a fireworks.
Well, this is it, you know, I mean, you have to prioritize.
Right.
So a motion was made and seconded. All in favor of repairing some of those small items, such as allowed and leaving 9 o'clock until the next meeting, and we agree that this is the first reading, and we accept it as a first reading. Move second, all in favor. Thank you. Moving on to the next item. Consider purchasing a tractor mower for the sewer department portion and for the proceeds from the scrap metal. Thank you guys, have a great night. Thank you for coming in.
The council had indicated back along that we were encouraged to get what value we could from some of the unused material that came out of the sewer treatment facility. There was a sewer press that would actually squeeze the liquid from the material, and we thought that one of the contractors would swap, had interest in that machine. Even though it was 1970s vintage, it was still working. That turned out not to be the case. They thought that it would take them longer to get it disinstalled and out of the building than it was worth. So we asked the Public Works Department to dismantle the equipment, and we sold the metal for scrap, and it yielded $4,500. There was a lot of valuable metal in that container. It was a big container, one of those 55-yard things that was nearly full. So there is need for a mowing tractor at the facility. It's not a good candidate for one of these zero-turn machines because the lay of the land out there is not level. So Dan has asked, because he needs a tractor, whether you would allow us to go out to bid for a machine. AJ has assisted us in the development of specs of what we're looking for so that we can keep the grass cut up there. Dan does need one. He'd rather not put money into the one that we now have. And if this request is not appropriate, we would then put it in the budget request that we'd be making, but this would allow Dan to move forward a little faster. And personally, I see no objection to this. The tractor we believe that he's interested in that would meet these specs would be in the order of $3,500, which would still leave about $1,000 of the proceeds of that metal sale that would go into the sewer department reserves. So that's our idea, but we wanted to bring it before you for your consideration before we went forward to see if you thought we were thinking correctly.
I think we just need to make sure that in the discussion we touch on the issue that as you have talked about, the zero-turn mower, that the mower we have purchased for the Pleasant Point, which we had said could be used in other areas, is not appropriate for the sewer district, because I'm sure there will be people who said, well, we just spent money on the zero turn with the understanding we could use it in other places, and why are we turning around and buying another tractor now? So as long as we feel convinced that yes, that zero-turn mower which we purchased is not gonna be appropriate for this particular site, and that's why we're going ahead with the second tractor. I think it's appropriate.
So you'd like to see us get the value out of the old one?
No, I'm just saying that, I'm in favor of purchasing it if in fact we agree that the zero-turn which we bought for Pleasant Point, which we said could be used in other locations, was not appropriate for the sewer.
Okay.
Because I know there was a lot of discussion at the Budget Advisory Committee that we talked about how we're gonna fund the zero-turn and the fact that other places in town could use it.
I see.
And if this is a place where we could
Like
have
the
used it.
cemeteries.
Right.
Like the cemetery, yeah.
But it's not really appropriate. You know, I wanna make sure that they feel we're not going behind them and saying, well, we got that one, now we're gonna get another one. We're getting this because the other one's not appropriate for this particular location.
And I would also mention that there is a distinction in the funding, in that the sewer funds are separate and distinct, and we're really not supposed to cross over too much with the ratepayers paying for the taxpayers and vice versa.
The zero-turn mower does not work well on slanted ground. It goes up and downhill all right, but it doesn't go crossways because you can't keep the thing headed where you want to go.
That's why the specifications here are different from
Right.
what we've asked for.
I mean, that's the
in
problem
other-
with the zero-turn on the ground that he has down there with all the funny slopes and stuff.
Should we like to make a motion, you want me to?
I'll make a motion that we let him go out for bid on that mower and see what they can do.
Second, all in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next one is to authorize town manager to review the contract for Somerset County Public Safety Answering Point Services.
This one is an annual task. We did intend to continue again with Somerset County on the PSAP. This is one that I think the provision, they've left a place for me to sign, but if you've had a chance to look at the agreement, you'll see that it is unchanged. The amount that they're seeking from the town is unchanged. It's based on the number of residents per capita. Neither have they, so the number of, is based on the last census. So that number is the same, and the rate that they're going to charge us is the same. So it's good that the chief is here. Are you still satisfied with the service that we're getting from Somerset County?
I am. We've experienced no problems through them.
I guess we could both recommend that the council authorize the signature of this document.
I would.
Sounds like that's two on this side of the table.
Second, all in favor?
Thank you.
Unanimous.
I noticed in the paper today, some city around went with $1.25 just like us. I can't remember what
I
city it
believe it was
was.
Waterville.
Was it Waterville?
It was Waterville.
It was in the
They,
paper today somewhere.
yeah, they go through the same place rather than going to Augusta.
Yeah.
You're on.
Under the manager's report, there's some information here that is new that I thought you'd be interested in relative to the gas main proposal. This map was delivered to us yesterday, and maybe we can start that around. The top one is an improved version over the bottom one, so I'd recommend that you look at the top one. Mike, turn it 90 degrees with this end going up, and you will see that the route of the gas main is almost identical to the route of our sewer project that we spent the last 3 years on. That the gas main will enter Oakland from the south. It's going to cross from Winslow directly across down in the lower right piece of the map. It's going to, am I looking at that right? Yep, the dotted line. It's going to come directly underneath the Kennebec River from Winslow to Waterville on a straight line of what's called the Hamlin Road, which lines right up with Webb Road. And it'll come right out Webb Road and make a left on Country Club Road and proceed to Kennedy Memorial Drive. It will cross Kennedy Memorial Drive as the sewer project did and travel along Old Waterville Road.
That would be a right off Webb Road.
Right off the road here. Yep.
Go right off from Webb Road and a left off from Country Club Road. Thank you. You're right. And along Old Waterville Road, we've learned that there will be a regulation station.
Regulator station.
Regulator station, thank you. Near the point where Old Waterville Road rejoins KMD down on this end, and that there will be regulatory station, regulator.
Regulator.
By golly, I'm gonna learn that, regulator station. That's an older version that doesn't show as much now. This one here's got a blue dotted line on it that shows the distribution work. So much to say, and it's hard to boil it down. The first picture, or the picture that Mike is holding up now, is just the trunk line. It will then, once it gets on KMD, they're going to directional drill under Messalonsky Stream and make a right-hand turn and go up Fairfield Street on their way to Fairfield and Sappy and Madison this year. The map that's going around shows the distribution line that they intend to install.
No, go ahead.
The distribution that's shown by the dotted blue line on the map that Mark has shows what they intend to install this year. And the regulator station in Oakland will be one of the two places that then feeds gas to Waterville. There will also be service provided to Waterville from the south, which I gather is in Winslow off from the map. But there's going to be a service, and the one that's coming from Oakland will be the one that they take gas off to get to Hudamaki. So we will be in a central location, and because that represents some investment in the community. But what you probably would like to know is that they intend to be delivering gas to Sappy in the calendar year that we're now in. And they have asked the town for road opening permits. They have on Country Club Road and Old Waterville Road. They have also asked the Maine DOT for road opening permits on Webb Road, KMD, and Fairfield Street. We have a road opening permit ordinance that puts most of the authority in the Public Works Director's hands, but we have met jointly with representatives of the company, and there are fees which we require to protect the town so that the roads are put back in condition at least equal to what they are before excavation begins. The fees for that work will be considerable. The money is put aside, and presumably they do a good job, and the money is then returned to them. But if something unexplained was to happen to the company, and they got our road torn up, and something happened in New York City or whatever, the funding situation changed, and they left us holding the bag, there would be money in escrow and via a bond that would allow us to put our roads back in order. The company would like to see road opening permits granted ASAP. However, they realize that the plans that they left with us today need some time for proper review. I've asked for two things. I've asked if we could partner with the Maine Department of Transportation. They are giving their applications for road opening permits careful consideration. And Jamie Andrews, the regional engineer, has offered to meet with me next week. We're trying to get a Thursday meeting set up so that I can be shown what the DOT is looking at. I also asked the representative, nice guy but a very busy man, who was with us yesterday and today from Cornerstone Energy. If you've seen those trucks around, they're working for Woodard & Curran and Summit Utilities. If they would be willing to reimburse us for several hours of time from a licensed engineer to review the plans, and they said they would. So I've asked Boyd Snowden, in fact gave the plans for the construction to Boyd Snowden for his review, and that will be reimbursed to us by the company, and hopefully we'll have an independent way of looking at the plans as well as a partnership with the Maine DOT on their scrutiny of the plans. The financial arrangements, similarly. We looked on the country club piece. It's depending upon the thickness of the pavement, the calculation of the fee that would be put aside ranges between $100,000 and $150,000 that we would seek from the company, and they've agreed to pay. And that's refundable if they do a good job, good and proper job. And on the old Waterville Road, it ranged between $75,000 and I think $120,000. But so we're talking about something like $200,000. The company is interested in or willing to put some of that forward as an escrow account, and the rest of it forward as a bond, a performance bond, if you will. And I have asked Lee Bragg, our attorney, to review those documents and make sure that Oakland's interests are protected, and at least equally to the company's, you know, the ifs, ands, or buts. You know, you want to make sure Oakland's interests are really protected. And Lee Bragg said that he would do that, and the company agreed to compensate Lee Bragg, the attorney, a reasonable amount for that review. So far this is costing the town nothing, but I wanted to tell you what is afoot. He told me the names of the contractors that the company has lined up to put this pipe in the ground. He gave me 3 names. They weren't immediately known to me, but they're trying to meet a timetable to deliver gas to Sappi, and they also want to give us adequate time to go through a review without dragging it all out. So that's an update on what's happened here most recently. Hopefully you're satisfied with this, but I'm always interested in things that perhaps we overlooked that you would want tended to.
I think anything, like we talked before, Peter, anything we can do to expedite this is in our interest, as long as you're looking after the interests of the town and see that things are done right. So.
The council has said that before, and I have tried to proceed with that in mind.
Right.
I think you covered the bases well.
Has there been any discussion on the potential tips?
They have not sought anything like that from the town. This company is a different business plan, different business model from the one that we were dealing with earlier on.
Did they give you any estimate yet of the value or what they'll be putting into Oakland? I know we had a value before, but that was on the old plan.
The last figure that I had on what you see on this map, and this does not include the
regulator.
Thank you, the regulator. I'm sticking my head. The regulator is not included in the number that I'll give you. They indicated that there will be 8 regulators along the course of the project from Pittston. I think I told you this was coming from Windsor, and that was what I thought. This fellow told us that the gas is coming here from Pittston. And the figure that they gave on the investment that you see pictured here is $13 million. And that's just that does not include distribution.
For our taxpayers, that's new valuation that we'll get tax money from.
Correct.
So there, sorry.
Go ahead, Jim.
There's no tax instrument financing with this deal. They don't want to sit, like, not pay taxes is basically what you're
Correct.
saying.
That has not been asked for, and I'll add the word yet, but that doesn't mean anything. I mean, I don't think they're going to, but they have not. What they also have said, for those of you who might be customers, or think about being customers, is that commercial, beyond what's there. They weren't sure about First Park. Apparently there are conversations, they have sales and marketing executives out there talking to people. They weren't ready to put First Park on that map that he gave us today, because apparently the conversations aren't far enough along with the businesses up in there. However, they indicated that commercial and residential services would be offered next year and the following year as they build their network out. And this is all that they wanted us to consider as likely in the year that we are now in. That's an update on that. Let's see, I also had some things on, let's see if there's anything else here that I want to make sure we talk There was a library report that made it into your mailboxes, and it didn't make it into your packet, that Sarah has done. And so that was included. Under manager's report, that's all I'll touch on. We have at least 4 matters of other business to call to your attention. If you're agreeable to that, the chief is here on one of those. In the order in which they were received, at least, Natalie Morse has provided us with a matter that she has to contend with, and we wanted your okay. She gets chickens about questions about poultry running across property lines and leaving evidence of their visits, and that's not generally welcomed by the property owners. She asked if you were fine with our putting this notice up, mentioning to people that farm animals need to be kept on the owner's property and are not welcome on other people's property without the owner's permission. And she would like to enforce that as health officer, and she wanted the town office to be able to receive calls, and you're okay with our circulating that general information. Thank you. So I'll tell her we're good with that, and of equal or greater importance is the matter that the police chief is here for, about filling 2 vacancies that we have in the Oakland Police Department. We said back along, because of the budget uncertainties that we're still laboring under, despite last night's town meeting results, we still don't know what the state of Maine is going to do with regards to revenue sharing, so we've still got a $300,000 revenue issue floating around out there. We said at a council meeting that we were going to bring hiring decisions to your attention before we automatically do, as we've often done, and refill positions as they occur. The chief will speak convincingly for the need to fill these positions now, and I support his what he will tell you. But if we do that, then that will somewhat limit us to where else we can go in the municipal budget if we have to find $300,000. So it seemed like a question to put before you in a timely way rather than after some fact or another. Chief, I've maybe spoken too long, but would you please?
I think you've done a wonderful job. Keep going. No.
I think you should swing the bat for a while.
Okay, I'll do what I can. I'll do what I can. First off, I would just mention the obvious, that the Oakland Police Department is very much experiencing a lot of sorrow while we mourn the loss of Officer Corbett. Many of you probably attended his funeral. It was very well done, I think, and the family appreciated it, and we will continue to mourn his loss. That being said, Steve has been out from work since mid-November, and that left an obvious hole in our schedule, and we've been filling that with our reserve officers. And frankly, we're overtaxing our reserve officers. Our reserve officers are professionals that have full-time jobs and go to their full-time jobs, and in addition to that, they've been working many hours since mid-November at the police department to meet our needs as well, and I commend them for all that they've done. But they are getting tired of all the hours that they're getting, and they are doing it as a favor to us, and I fear that as we continue, it's going to be more and more difficult to fill those hours and to continue the coverage that is very necessary, in my eyes, for the police department to cover the town. As an example of that, Rick can tell you, because you gave me the numbers today, I don't remember what they were, the number of shifts that are open right now that need to be filled by reserve officers for
10 in May and 28 in June that we can't fill right now that would go to overtime if we don't.
And that's kind of the rest of the story, is that any of these shifts that we can't fill with our reserves because of how we're overtaxing them is going to overtime costs. Now we are saving in our budget the money that we would normally be paying Officer Corbett, though that is offset by the cost of the part-timers and whatever the overtime costs would be if that became necessary or becomes necessary or is necessary. there is some savings that we're realizing there and that we've realized since mid-November. So our budget is certainly in a place where we can fill that position now. And then we no longer would have that overtime issue or be paying the reserve officers as a result of having a new full-timer on board. What I would say in addition to that, as Peter alluded to, there are two positions. The other position is that Officer Dusty, as you know, is retiring at the end of June. He is the school resource officer at the middle school, which is a very different position. We can hire a patrol officer and bring them in and throw them in the car for a couple of weeks, and they are quickly ready to hit the ground running, hopefully, if we get an experienced officer, which is my hope. That is a blue pin or a full-time academy graduate. We don't send to the academy. Then within a couple of weeks, that person is on the ground and working. But he does take a couple of weeks in the car with someone else to learn the town, to learn our standard operating procedures, and to learn the various things that you learn when you go to a new department to work. As opposed to that, a school resource officer is one that's going into a school to learn how that school works and to learn what the expectations are of that school. Whether they have experience as a school resource officer in another school or not, it's very different as it is in other departments. So I feel because of that, it's advantageous to us if we can bring on the school resource officer a couple of weeks earlier than July 1st, which would be when Dusty was gone, and then that budget would handle that. In order for them to spend, that person, whoever it might be, to spend a couple of weeks with Dusty, shadowing him, learning school, meeting the people, learning his responsibilities, and getting that job down as we would FTO, field training officer, or an officer on patrol, would really need to do the same thing with the school resource officer, particularly at the middle school, which is where Dusty is. So my request is that I'm asking you to allow me to start the process now. The process, best case scenario, takes us a month by the time we actually get people on board, and that's going to put us pretty much into the middle of June, which is going to give us 2 weeks sooner than we would have if they were starting July 1. So again, the patrol officer, it's budgeted for anyway. The school resource officer would be a couple weeks earlier than it would have other been. It would be in this budget cycle rather than the next. But we have realized savings in our budget to absorb that. So hopefully I explained that well, but I'll certainly answer any questions.
In all actuality, you need to do that sooner because we need to have started last week.
We need to
Just
have started yesterday.
I'm just trying to help you.
Yeah, you're absolutely
Dusty
right.
is actually,
Yeah.
he's taking his last 2 weeks off. He's at vacation time. And he said it last night, he's taking the last 2 weeks off. School gets out on the 17th or 18th.
Nope. I didn't know that he was doing that.
Well, what he had said last
Okay.
night, because I was talking to him about his hours.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
sorry, but I mean, that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
So I'm just
Hey,
saying
it's the
ahead.
county town council meeting.
it does. We all learn things, don't we?
But no, I'm just saying we need
Yeah.
to act on it soon.
Yeah.
So, questions?
But at the same time, even though Dusty's leaving, it still would give that person a couple of weeks to get into
Oh,
the school.
yeah. No,
When the school people are still out and
Yeah,
about.
yeah. I'm just
Because
saying.
the couple of weeks after school, there are still teachers there, there's still the administration is there, whereas during the summer, there's a lot of vacation time going on.
It
And
would
we
be
use that
advantageous to
officer.
get him in there now as soon
Yeah.
as possible.
And we would use that officer the 1st of July anyway to plug into our schedule. It saves us a lot of money to have the school resource officers come out and cover vacation times for officers in the department. So that's what we use them for during the summer anyway.
Just, could you review the budget implications of the school person versus the patrol officer?
The budget implications.
The school, what portion does the school pay?
Okay, I understand.
And
The school pays 75% of the officer's salary, which is equal to 9 months, and the town pays for 25%, which is pretty much equal to those summer hours that we have the school resource officers doing detective work or patrol or whatever the case may be.
So the only difference would be that this person would start on a different schedule, and the ratio doesn't change. contract would run through 1 year from whatever time they start, so it wouldn't be on